Last Friday night we were treated to an incredible game as the Six Nations got underway. France and Ireland have served up great games over the past few years, and while this Friday was a one-sided affair, Ireland securing their biggest ever victory over Le Bleu. The game saw a superb tactical performance from Ireland, from which there is plenty to learn. The video today will focus on how Ireland applied pressure throughout the game. First looking at the lineout, before examining their huge intensity and phase play, which was accompanied by some great examples of how to defend on the edge. Finally, we look at confirmation that the dark arts are alive and well. Ireland produced a dominant defensive lineout display, stealing 4 of the French lineouts. Ireland's plan was based around getting aerial and taking away the front and middle from France where possible. To do this, they primarily used Tadhg Beirne and Peter O'Mahony as defensive jumpers. Either Ireland used a hinge on a 5-man or a 2-pod defence on a 6-man lineout to achieve this. This second clip shows the Irish 6-man defence. Beirne operates in the back pod, standing just in front of the French attackers, while Peter O'Mahony shuts off the front option. France will try and win the race into the middle space, but notice Tadhg Furlong's body shape at the front of Beirne's lifting pod. The Irish prop remains open with his shoulders angled upfield. This allows him to move into the space well before lifting Beirne and helping Ireland effect the steal. This next lineout is in Ireland's 22, and France use what is effectively a 5+1 setup, with backs also joining at the front. This means Ireland can defend it as a 6-man again, with their 2-pod structure. This time, France try and use a slip to attack in front of Peter O'Mahony. However, the Irish captain jumps well, and the lift is strong, allowing him to get across the gap and disrupt the ball. This leads to Luku getting hit behind the game line. France changed to a 4-man lineout, both due to field position and perhaps tried to take advantage of O'Mahony being in the bin and tried to isolate Tadhg Beirne. However, the Irish second row is effective, moving across the ground at speed and is able to compete in front and steal the ball. The final lineout of the game rather summed up the French experience. Back in the Irish 22, France call a 5+1 lineout, again using some backs at the front. Ireland defend this with a 2-pod. This time, they are able to focus on taking away the back and the middle. They are able to do this with the backs not being a jumping threat at the front. France run a similar slip move to earlier, and Ryan Baird's pod is able to compete. Baird gets a hand across, disrupts the delivery, and Ireland then steal it on the floor. Disrupting the French lineout was a useful tool, but it was a ferocious approach in phase play that proved the key to eventual victory. Using Oval Insights data, we can see Ireland's ferocity through the use of a new stat. Ireland made the most sacks of any team on the Six Nations opening weekend with 13. A sack meaning they tackle the opponent behind the game line off a single pass within 10 metres of the previous ruck. A sack represents intent to get off the line and pin opponents tight to their previous breakdown. Joe McCarthy gives us an excellent example here, backing up a brilliant tackle from Crowley and Aki and forcing France into a box kick. Although Josh van der Flier misses this next tackle, we see the impact of the line speed, forcing France to step inside and Ireland complete the hit behind the game line. Van der Flier then chops Aldriet down for a second action in 2 phases, and if not for Porter falling over the carrier, Ireland could easily have been rewarded with a penalty. This passage in the 43rd minute shows the Irish intent to get off the line again. On every phase, they meet the French carrier behind the game line. This completely disrupts the French attack and leads to Luku picking and going the wrong way before making a pass. The mistake allows Ireland to close the gap to the carrier, making another sack. They then complete hard over the ball and win the penalty. A final clip from the 63rd minute shows Hugo Keenan working hard on kick chase, not allowing the French to counter-attack. This means France start their attack on the Irish 10-metre with no momentum and are met with a wall of green. Ronan Kelleher follows it up with another sack tackle. On the following phase, McCarthy flies off the line, and while he doesn't make the hit, He forces a delay in the French attack. This leads to a timing error, and within 2 phases, Ireland have gained 10 metres and the ball. A perfect example of Ireland's intent on Friday. There are disadvantages with a high line speed defence, with more space being left out wide. However, when France did make it wide, Ireland were also superb at shutting down their opportunities. James Lowe in particular had an excellent game closing off access in the wide channels. It started in the first 5 minutes with this steal, James Lowe getting into the passing lanes to intercept the ball. We also see Ireland's intent here through Jamison Gibson-Park, who gets high on the edge. This forces France into a big mispass, which goes to ground, and they can't make any more ground out wide. These mispasses frequently led to errors, a credit to the pressure Ireland were exerting. However, Andy Farrell's men didn't just rely on French mistakes. James Lowe here defending superbly again. The winger gets high and remains uncommitted. By slowing his feet and keeping his hips open, James Lowe can push off to cover the late arriving French runner. This allows James Lowe to make a tackle behind the gain line, holding up the French attacker and winning the turnover. One final way that Ireland pressured France was going after the scrum half, but Lucu and Le Garrec are both high-quality scrum halves. Andy Farrell's side therefore set about disrupting everything Le Petit Général did. Whether that was charging at every box kick, a tactic that paid dividends for Tyburn Steel, or whether it was pressuring the French scrum half at the base of this scrum, or playing with Le Garrec's arms at the ruck. They also exhibited the dark arts, targeting the nines off the ball, making sure that if they got close enough to Lucu, they left him on the ground. All in all, it was a fantastic performance from Andy Farrell's men. While it started up front, shutting down their platform at lineouts, it was the constant intent in phase play that really made the difference. A truly dominant defensive display that is a statement of their intent as they chase Grand Slam glory.